Today, we're doing a formal review and deep dive into the most popular boat decking mod probably out there right now. EVA, boat, flooring, decking, whatever keywords they put in on the Amazon listings. This is what I've been using in a lot of my tiny boats. It's what you're looking at right here. And after having it on one of my boats for about a year, I've got quite a bit to say about it. Now, this foam decking is one of the most popular mods, especially in our tiny boat community. And I've been asked 1,000 times, Grayson, for your Pond Prowler and your Sun Dolphin, do you still have the templates? I would absolutely love them. And the answer is I did make some. I've been toying with the idea of actually selling full boat kit templates so that way you don't have to do all of the annoying measuring or any of the cutting out. You can literally get the template, drop it on your sheet of foam, and cut it out. I'm toying with that idea. If you would like one made for your Sun Dolphin or Pond Prowler, email me, bossandbiz@gmail.com. I'm thinking $50 a pop. That'll cover materials, some of my time. It's pretty time intensive. I don't know. We'll see. If you want one, let me know. Anyway, let's get straight into it. Now, I'm going to link this color and this color down below, but once you click on them, they're going to have a bunch of different variations. Now, these foams come in different patterns. So this one has very, very, very small grooves. This is the material on my Pond Prowler. This is the material on my John boat. There are two different sellers, but I can promise you they are all the exact same product. This one has a lot bigger grooves, but overall, they're identical. Now let me talk about why I installed these on my boat in the first place, and maybe some reasons that you may want to install it on your boat as well. Now, first of all, it looks pretty cool. It turns boring aluminum boats, old fiberglass boats, or plastic molds into something that just flat out looks a lot cooler. And also, for me, the most important part was the reduction in sound and vibrations when you're dropping stuff on an aluminum boat. Even fiberglass and plastic, you're walking around, you're setting water bottles down, you're dropping pliers. That creates noise and vibrations, seeing it throughout the water and spooking fish. And flat out, I don't like that. I fish for a lot of redfish on the flats in 2 foot of water on super calm days. I cannot be setting a coffee mug down and then spooking that fish. I'm not joking. Like, this stuff really actually helps with that. So that was my number one reason, but also it doesn't absorb water. It's much easier to clean. Things don't stain it as easy if you get rid of it in a timely manner. We'll talk about that. And on my John boat, I actually stand on this material most of the time as I've done my benches, and I stand on my benches when sight fishing for trout and redfish. So I wanted it for heat reduction in the boat because this stuff just simply doesn't absorb, it seems like, as much heat from the sun, and it's just softer for me to stand on. So there's a bunch of reasons I decided to install this. Now let's get into the actual review, and we're going to break it up into different categories. Number one is we're going to talk about price. Now, depending on the size you get is the deal you get, but roughly it's going to be about $3 per square foot, and to do an entire Pond Prowler, it took me about 15 square foot, and to do an entire 12-foot plastic John boat, my Sun Dolphin American 12, it took me the I think it's about 19 and a half square foot, the $63 option on Amazon. So about 15 square foot for my Pond Prowler, 20 square foot for the John boat. And both of those came out to about $3 per square foot. Now, this is the most cost-effective sea decking solution you're going to find. Now, there are higher quality offerings. There are, you can literally go to a dealer, pick it out off a showroom floor, and have it installed for you professionally. But this is, $60, do it myself in an afternoon, and it looks great, it's just as functional. It's hard to pass up, so I gotta give the price a 10 out of 10, $3 a square foot for this stuff, and you can install it so easy, it's no big deal at all. Gotta give the price a 10 out of 10. All right, number two, ease of installation. Now I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10. Now we're gonna talk about stickiness in the next category, and that kind of plays a little bit of a factor in here, but really this stuff is super easy to install. Any pair of household scissors, any utility knife, any pocket knife, really anything can slice right through this material in terms of cutting it clean through. It's not really hard to cut. I mean, I did the entire Pond Prowler with scissors because my utility knife broke, and I did my entire John boat with a utility knife, and the edges were just as razor sharp. This stuff cuts really easily. Now, when I'm, handling fish and dealing with fish and flaying fish and doing all that stuff on my boat, I'm not saying that this stuff slices super easy, but when you're trying to make a clean cut all the way through and not have jagged edges, this stuff really handles it really well. It cuts super easy. You can place the templates on top of it. For example, you've got your foam here, you place your stencil on top of it, and I usually put like a knee or a foot down in the middle of it, and I just hold it down with one hand and just slice right around it with the other one. It's that easy. It is really easy to cut out. And in terms of installation, you just peel this back and stick it on. Now, we're going to talk about stickiness next, but I'm going to give the ease of installation an 8 out of 10. It doesn't really get much easier than that. But probably the number one factor and the number one question I get is the stickiness. Now, I'm going to rate this stickiness a 6 out of 10, a 60%. That's not really a good passing grade here, but hear me out. There are a few things that you can do for cheap to, well, make it stick permanently and for good. All of these things I had to do on both of my boats, both my plastic boats, but you're likely going to experience this on aluminum and fiberglass as well. This stuff, I mean, it just isn't that sticky. You might get lucky, but you might not. I hear most people say, hey, I installed it and it came up the next day. And that happened to me twice. Okay, so for some reason it seemed to have stuck to my Pond Prowler a little bit better than my Sun Dolphin, but they're both plastic boats. But here is exactly what I would highly recommend everybody do so that way you don't have to redo it down the road. Get some isopropyl alcohol, 90%, 93%, 99%, it doesn't matter. Wipe it clean. Give it just a few minutes to evaporate so all that alcohol is out, but all of the debris and gunk is out of the way as well. That's going to give it a nice clean surface to stick on. Pretty basic. All right, I just went and looked for it, and it's actually still in the storage unit with the boats. But you're going to want 3M heavy-duty adhesive spray. Now, once your surface is wiped clean with isopropyl alcohol and that has evaporated, hold your 3M adhesive spray about 6 inches from where you're going to lay it down. Do nice even coats, do 2 or 3. But here's the most important part. Even people who use this spray still have issues with it coming up. This is what you need to do. Give it 1, 2, 3 minutes. Depends on the climate and where you're doing this, whether it's outside, garage, winter, or summer. Give it a few minutes. Wait until your adhesive is tacky. That's the key here. This is what I've messed up multiple times on multiple boats. Don't press it and it just comes off like liquid. You want it to literally stick to your finger, pulls out. You can see the strings and you have to pull it off. You want to be pulling this adhesive off. Wait until it's really tacky. Then peel this back and lay it down. But we're not done there. Even though you've cleaned it, even though you've added the extra adhesive, waited till it's tacky, put it down evenly and applied pressure, you still want to put weights all over everywhere. Even if you do the method where you wait till it's tacky, you got a clean surface, all that stuff, it can still come up in certain areas. This is what I faced with my John boat. Now, the Pond Prowler, it did just fine for whatever reason. I don't know what it is, but it's just best to always apply pressure on top. So what I mean by that is whenever I was done laying the foam, I came back the next day and some of the corners were popped up. Now, I was not shocked at all. I expected the corners to pop up. But what always works, and what works every single time anything has ever came up right after installation, just apply something heavy. Now, I added paint cans, I added boat anchors, I added trolling motors, I added just random stuff that I had around my boat. I put it all over the foam so that way it would just hold it down. You see, what it wants to do is what it's doing right now. It's curling up. This makes it really hard to work with, and it makes it not want to stick. I mean, you could press it down as hard as you can, and it's going to come right back up because it comes from Amazon very tightly wound. Now, you can flip it upside down, put heavy materials on it, and try to stretch it out a little bit, but the truth is, it doesn't seem to work. It always wants to come back to its original shape. So give it some help, apply some pressure, and between the pressure that you're applying overnight, or not you applying, but random objects, water bottles, coolers, anything to keep it in that shape, in addition to the spray adhesive, you're going to be doing just fine. So stickiness is a 6 out of 10, and those are the exact steps on how you can get a perfect stick every single time. All right, next, let's talk about durability/cleaning. And I'm going to give that a 7 out of 10. Really good for this price point. Now, this stuff takes a beating. I am not someone that takes my boat out like a couple times a month or a couple times a year. And I'm not someone who takes a boat out and just sits there for, 2 hours and doesn't catch fish. I mean, we're talking bull red fish. We are talking, you guys have seen the channel. You're on the channel. You watch it, you're subscribers. You know how much abuse, blood, coffee, everything, knives, hooks. I don't think anybody runs these little boats harder than we do here on this channel, putting them through stress tests and just being in saltwater environments and getting these giant fish. Listen, this stuff is durable. It hasn't came up after proper installation. Blood, coffee, nothing really stains. Now, I have found out If you leave it for a week, it will stain. It'll absorb and it'll stain. As you can see, we have some very faint blood stains up here. And oh, actually, I apologize. This is coffee stains, very faint coffee stains, because I left them up there for like a week or two. This is my cooler, but this is done with leftover stuff. But as you can see, it is still perfectly stuck to it, thrown in the bed of my truck, thrown in the passenger seat, been rained on, been dunked. And yeah, as you can see, this thing is in absolutely rough shape. You probably can't tell from the camera, but this cooler has been abused with this foam on it. So it cleans well. Anything will come off of it, blood, coffee, as long as you get it off in a timely manner. It's durable. If you have a good stick, no water, no salt water is going to get under it and unbond your adhesive. I mean, if you have a little corner coming up and more water protrudes, that's an issue. Get that corner down. But for the most part, you know, I wash mine with power washers and I take them and hose them down and nothing's came up. As you can see, this is probably the cleanest portion, but there is zero sun fading. And this cooler actually comes on me not only on the Pond Prowler, but on the John boat and on the kayak with my kayak charters. And this also comes with me offshore, near shore. This is the cooler. This is mostly a small personal cooler for myself or simply dry storage. So this comes with me everywhere. And as you can see, zero stains where I clean it, zero fading, and it's still on there very tight. So you don't have to worry about any of that. It doesn't come off on my hands. None of it is dissolved or disintegrated. And it's still just as fluffy and comfortable as it was day one. So I got to give this stuff, for the price, for the ease of installation, a solid 8 out of 10. Yes, it could stick better. Yes, they could ship it where it's not so tightly wound. How would they do that? I don't know, so I can't knock them for it. But I highly recommend this stuff. You can click the link in my description. Check it out. I'm also going to link below the spray adhesive as well as a foam roller. This will help your process. A good utility knife that I recommend, and I might as well throw in some isopropyl alcohol. One-stop shop. Get everything you need with the links in the description. Thanks for hanging out, guys, and I'll see you in the next Tiny Boat video.